Welcome into the Stack Shack podcast. My name is Nathaniel. We have a great episode today. Jumping back a little bit to our childhood, gonna get very nostalgic here, I think. We're gonna talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the sequel. Knuckles is finally showing up along with Tails, and maybe some other characters that we'll get into. But Gabe, I just want to hear maybe tell me what your background with Sonic is, if it is nostalgic for you, and then what did you think of this movie?
Um, Growing up on our the local news channel, we had a 4 Kids TV, and Sonic would play on
Uh-huh.
that. I want to say every Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, and I would catch maybe an episode every month. Was
Okay.
not big into Sonic at all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the most I remember from Sonic is less the TV show and more um, rented a Sonic Riders video game, like the
Mm.
Xbox Mario Kart Sonic.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And then we had to return
Yeah.
it, and I never played it again. That is my
Yeah.
experience with Sonic.
Well, you played Shadow too,
Oh, I
didn't
forgot
you?
about Shadow the Hedgehog. Yes,
I
on
remember
the
that was scandalous
Xbox.
because it was a
Ooh,
teen.
it was
Wait,
rated.
was it a teen
I think it was
or is it
E10.
E10 and up?
E10 and up.
E10.
But
Yeah.
he says "damn" in
6-year-old.
it, so
Yeah.
I was all whoa.
Yeah, 6-year-old
Oh
me's
no!
like, whoa,
And then it was
this is very
also
adult.
poop. The soundtrack. I remember the soundtrack was a banger. That's
Yeah.
what
Mm-hmm.
whoever did that. Was it Crush 40? I know they do all the Sonic songs, but I don't know if they did Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But okay, gotcha, gotcha.
I'm hearing
What'd you
from
think of
my
the movie?
resident Shadow the Hedgehog expert that it was Crush 40 who did the soundtrack.
Ah, okay.
um,
Phone a friend is coming in
yeah.
clutch.
I'll drop a line next time. I thought it was okay without
Okay.
having too much nostalgia. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was just it's like okay, it's a kids movie. I remember
Yeah.
thinking the wedding scene was hilarious. Like afterwards, I was laughing at that. um,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What were your thoughts?
So for me, I'm definitely nostalgic for Sonic. The same show, Sonic X, which was
Mhm.
like the
Mhm.
Japanese anime Sonic that then got dubbed over to English or whatever. Um, it aired every Saturday on 4 Kids TV or whatever it was on the CW,
Uh huh. Uh
and
huh.
that was my Saturday morning tradition growing up as a little kid. We watched. I watched Sonic. I didn't really watch any of the other Dragon Ball Z was too adult for me. Like I'm little here.
Yeah.
So like Dragon Ball Z was like, you're probably not old enough to see that, which was also airing on the 4 Kids TV.
What else was there?
It was like Sonic, Dragon Ball Z, and then Pokemon or
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
There's another one. Oh no, like the G. No, that was a different channel. I'm mixing him up. Never mind.
Yeah, remembering our childhood TV shows. But Sonic X was the show me and my brother would watch every single Saturday morning. Um, when there wasn't football on, and then if there was football on, we taped it and watched them later. But just loved the show growing up, and so I've been very excited about the Sonic movies, because they're following, kind of the games in the show pretty well.
Mhm.
Uh, Not necessarily like frame for frame well, but like the storylines, the themes are very similar, I would say.
Okay.
And some of the cool moments are definitely there. And so I loved the second movie. Um, I just had an absolute blast watching it. It definitely is a kids show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's made for the kids. There's up to date references with like Sonic doing a Fortnite dances and like little things like that, right? Um, that you can tell it is geared for kids. But what I think is was really nice about it is for someone who is no longer a child, but who grew up on it. I think um, it was a well made movie, and it was made in such a way that I could still get behind it.
Okay.
Like I wasn't just bored or like, wow, we're getting real immature. I felt like the immaturity was palpable for an adult to still watch it and probably have some fun with it. Especially if you have some nostalgia for it or you're taking your kids to it, right? It'd be a fun show for you to see with your kids.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it still was well, for me, this one is way more focused on Sonic rather than the other characters, like the people. Which I know some people have complained about a little bit. I actually really liked it. I thought it had some fun adventure elements and stuff. Um, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Uh, what did you think about the overall storyline, Gabe, as far as just like evaluating it as a storyline, not necessarily as like we're watching Sonic or we
Hmm.
have nostalgia. If you take away all of that and you just evaluate the movie on its, you know, as just a movie, um, how do you think it holds up?
Well, as someone who didn't have much nostalgia behind it,
Hmm.
I think it's still just okay for me. Um,
Okay. What makes it okay and not great or not bad?
um, I think it comes down to it's geared for kids,
Hmm.
and that hits weird pacing for me. Um,
Okay, the pacing.
like specifically the one that stands out, the dance battle. That whole scene in the cabin was like that's
Yeah.
just way too long. For
Yeah.
the moment, for like the character beats and the plot points it introduced, it was like this is just stretched out quite a bit. Um,
Yeah.
and I felt like there were a lot of moments like that throughout the film. Um,
Okay.
now, if you're like as a kid, you're like, this is great. Sonic's beating these guys in a dance battle. These Russians, this is
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Uh-huh.
totally fine. Like that's the
Hmm.
point. But for me, watching it
It's
as an adult,
fun
I'm going there.
CGI. Yeah.
Um, the one thing that was weird for me, not I don't know how to explain it. I felt like the camera shots were weird when it was focused on the animated characters with the live action characters. Um,
Oh.
with depending
Hmm.
on okay, the one that jumped out to me was when what's the second sheriff in the town? Wayne,
Oh.
Wayne or
Wayne.
Wade?
Yeah. Wade or Wayne. Yeah. Something like
When
that.
they're in the
Yeah.
garage, him, Sonic, and Tails. There were just
Mm.
some weird like, okay, we're gonna go between Sonic and Tails, with Wayne in the middle, and it just I don't know. The shots just
Mm.
looked odd to me. Like the depth wasn't right. Something was I don't know. That scene that whole in the garage just was off putting,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure why. Other
You
than it
know,
felt like it was the camera angles.
I think I would agree with both of your critiques. Um, the dance battle, I think, is a very obvious one that a lot of people are going to point out.
Yeah.
It's that whole scene of them just like in that bar um is way too long. Absolutely right. I mean, it's you can tell some CGI artists had a lot of fun with it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell that it is a fun scene, but you're kind of like, right, this one's
Like,
definitely
come on, we
for
can keep
people a
going.
little younger than me, are
Yeah.
thinking this is the craziest, coolest thing ever. This is a 10-year-old's favorite scene.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mine, it's dragging on a little bit. And then I would actually agree, while I think we can all say that we love the character design of Tails, Knuckles, and Sonic. I absolutely love it.
Mm.
And it's Sonic is such a great I would say poster child for listening to your fan base.
Especially after the
Uh
first movie.
After the first movie, right? We have this trailer come out and everybody's like, "Whoa, Sonic's design does not look right at all." And they're like, you know what? We're going to take that constructive feedback and say, let's fix it. And they fixed it. And it turned out amazing. And so I really do like the character design. I've been
Mm.
impressed. I mean, even with this movie, they like changed a poster and stuff because of fan feedback. And I think it's a good example of when most of the time there's certain times whereas a creative person you need to like stop listening to us fans because we're going to pull you
Yeah.
in 90 million different directions,
Can't please
right?
everyone. You just got to go with
And
what you
you're
feels
never going
right.
to please anyone, and you got to go with what you want to do, and you want to keep your own artistic integrity,
Yeah.
and pull off something great. But there are certain times where you need to take our constructive feedback and go, you know what, the fans were right about this one. Like, they're all universally saying something. Maybe you should listen and not just immediately write it off as, they're just fans, they don't understand, or whatever. And I
Yeah.
think, for example, the final Star Wars movie, if they would have listened to fans a little bit more throughout these processes, I think they would have come up with something better, you know so I now fans, I think, also have some to blame for that situation as well. So like I
Yeah.
said, there's a balance here. um but I really like the Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles design. But I would agree with you. There were a few times when it was CGI characters with non CGI characters, and I think it's just the nature of, on one hand, Sonic's design is perfect. It's very accurate to how we've seen him before, but it is Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are so incredibly cartoony. When you have them juxtaposed with someone who has no level of cartoon on top of them, I think that makes it a little more off-putting. Someone like, is it Wade or Wayne? I don't remember. I should look it up.
It's fine.
But his character, right? He's just a police officer. He looks like a completely normal dude. When you put him next to Robotnik's such a flamboyant, exaggerated character, anyways, right? I think it doesn't feel quite as shocking a juxtaposition. But when you put him next to, like, just your average person that's supposed to just be kind of like your general average protagonist character, um, there were a couple times where it just felt a little bit like, what is this cartoon doing in the middle of my live action movie? Um, and I think I would agree, maybe with just a little bit different camera angles, or I think it might be also a lighting thing, where
Yeah.
if you did the lighting a little different so it just wasn't quite so exaggerated, I think either of those cases would have been good. I would have appreciated, um as a way to maybe lessen the shock of those juxtapositions.
I could totally see that. Yeah. Also, it's Wade. I just looked it up.
Okay, it is
Yeah.
Wade. Okay. We got
um,
you, Wade.
got
Sorry about that.
it. um, yeah. Like overall, I thought it was okay. It just not. I wasn't the target audience. I wasn't someone who has nostalgia for it, so it was just
Yeah.
felt.
What were if you were to pick a couple of favorite scenes from the film, were there anything that stood out to you as, like, that was really cool or that was really well done?
It's a good question. I'm a sucker for a good snowboarding like chase scene, fight scene. So they threw that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is great, and it's
Yeah.
very in the theme of Sonic, so that was also cool.
It
Um,
felt like the game. Like,
yeah,
there's definitely things you would do that in a game. Like, that felt like a Sonic video game. Absolutely.
the fact that he loses his coins was also like, oh, that's fun. Um,
Yeah.
what else is there? I thought the um, after the wedding gets interrupted. I don't remember the bride's name now. Oh no. Oh.
I don't know.
Anyway, she just goes full on. I'm cutting his head off. I thought that was
Yes,
hilarious.
that was perfect.
Chasing him down in the golf cart. That was great. I was just like, oh, this is so funny. Really appreciate.
Rachel is her name. I got you.
Yeah.
You helped me
Uh,
on the Wade.
and I just liked it because a lot of times I feel like in these cartoon or let's say the when we talked about Godzilla versus Kong, our least
Mm.
favorite parts were anytime the humans were on the screen, right?
People are on
We're
the
here to see
screen.
big monkey punch big lizard.
Yes.
So I like with Sonic, it felt like other than Eggman, um, we didn't have much screen time of any of the other characters except for what's his face at the wedding, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I thought all the wedding scenes were like, oh, this is fun, and it tied in a way that I thought worked okay. Um,
I agree. I
like,
think the human characters in this compared to a lot of our other TV show
mhm,
or our other, I should say, adaptation cartoon style adaptations, um the humans in this are not very annoying at all. I
yeah,
actually like most of their characters.
which was surprising, for me at least, because none of the other shows I've watched recently have done that. Um, I went to see it with a couple of my friends from campus. Um,
hmm
we convinced one to come with us instead of doing homework, and she doesn't like movies. So it was even more funny. But
Clutch.
Nick, his least favorite part of the film was Eggman. 'Cause he explained it as Jim Carrey as Eggman is more cartoony than the cartoon characters in the show.
Hmm.
I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that.
Hmm.
I think Jim Carrey as Eggman was fine. I enjoyed his moments a lot, because it's such a Jim Carrey role. Um,
Yeah.
like he,
I think
go ahead.
I think Jim Carrey is the perfect Eggman.
I do too.
I think he was absolutely magnificent in the first one. And in this second one, I think he was very, very, very good. Um,
Thought he was solid.
I think he's the perfect Eggman. I don't know how you would use any other character as Eggman. You
No,
know, any other actor could pull it off the way he does. Um,
I also think it's hilarious yet fitting that Jim Carrey's retiring with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as his last film.
yeah,
As
yeah.
Eggman, that's my last
Uh,
role. I'm done.
that's perfect for him, though. To me, I just love it. I love him as Eggman. Um,
It works so well.
it does. It really does. Eggman is a very exaggerated, wild character.
Yeah. And who else
He's a
can do that
total
but Jim Carrey?
caricature, and Jim Carrey's the perfect actor to play a caricature of someone. For me, standout scenes. Um, I also like that snowboarding kind of scene. Any moment where it looked like the video game. I love when um, we talk about animation in general. If you're going to animate something, then I want you to do things with that animation that don't work without it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
You gotta go a little over
use
the
the
top.
medium well.
Hmm.
Use the medium well. And I think they do a really good job of that throughout the film. Even in that dance battle, right? Having all of this perfect synchronized dance. I mean, it's just great. Uh, for me, so snowboarding scene, and then all of the moments where it looks like the video game or the cartoon. Now the cartoon's more anime, so not a lot of it looks like that, but especially like the video games. um and this is why I think I loved Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse so much, right? Because there's scenes in that are animated that make it look like a comic book, right? I love when movies call back to the original medium that they were derived from. And there's some moments like the snowboarding scene. If you compare the opening scene in the first movie where he's like doing the loop-de-loops and all of the ground looks like Sonic's homeworld from the video games, and there's the moments also running through the like maze to get to the Chaos Emerald, the Master Emerald
Yep.
at the end
Hmm.
there. That to me felt like the video game,
Hmm.
and I like those scenes. I really do like those scenes. For me, and this is a total nostalgia scene. Spoilers incoming if you want to turn away. When Sonic goes supersonic and becomes yellow,
I
I
knew you were
got
gonna bring that one
chills.
up.
I got chills. I got so excited when when you see, right, all the emeralds are like on the ground, and then right before he gets crushed, you see them like slip up and go into a circle.
You're like,
I was
oh
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, let's go. Because that is straight from the Sonic I grew up in, that kind of animation. I'm like, and then he gets stomped on. I'm like, please be yellow. Please be yellow. Please be yellow. Please be yellow. And
And then he was.
then he was, and he just smashes everything. And I'm like, yes, 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 yes. It really brought me back. Now, that scene, if I don't have nostalgia, if I don't have nostalgia, that scene probably doesn't give me chills because it's a very typical like hero
Saves the day at the end through
saves the day at the
power up.
end through becoming through some sort of power up or really locking in on his power. Like you think the hero's down and it's the same, hero's down and out. Something provides extra motivation or some new skill or power or something, and he wins. And so it's nothing unique necessarily. Even the fact that it's super, he goes supersonic instead of Super Saiyan, like that's pulled straight from Dragon Ball. Um, but it's still epic to me as myself looking at it with nostalgia to see him go supersonic.
Hmm.
So that for me was my favorite scene. It just it was perfectly done. And again, another example of a video adaptation. And I'd like to get your thoughts. What do you think about Sonic as a video game adaptation? We've had a rocky road with video adaptations.
Hmm.
This one's, I mean, both of these are over the 50% mark on Rotten Tomatoes. Like they are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. They're not, 90s or something crazy, but they're in the upper 60s, maybe 70s at certain points, depending on how many critics have voted in on them.
Yeah.
So they are getting decent critics reviews. Audience reviews seem to be very strongly in favor. Um, what do you think of this as a video game adaptation compared to other video game adaptations? Does this one do anything particularly well to you?
Um, I think it's hard to compare at times because Sonic has so much history, and
Mm-hmm.
other mediums of the within Sonic, like the show that you grew up
The
watching.
show, yeah, that's true.
So they have a lot more to pull from,
Mm-hmm.
and with there being a more structured story compared to other games, or even
Uh-huh.
shows, shows based off games. I think it lends itself to this pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
especially since the show already has Sonic coming into real life, like to our world and things happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
Now I think they did a good job with just small moments, making it staying true to the game and the show, making
Mm-hmm.
fans happy compared to other video game movies, say the Uncharted. I haven't
Oh,
watched it yet, but I have not heard anything good. Um,
yeah.
so I think they did pretty well with that in that regard. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I in the sense that they captured the game moments that people liked. Um,
Yeah.
I think they did a great job with that. Now, it might be easier for Sonic in terms of they can throw it in the action scenes, or like
Mm.
similar like how we parts of my favorite part of some of my favorite parts of Amazing Spider-Man were the slow motions where it's obviously he's going into a pose straight from the comic books. Or like Spider
Ah,
Verse
yes.
added all of the comic panels and like those
Mm-hmm.
effects where it stays true, like paying homage to the medium it came from or the
Mm-hmm.
original material. So I think Sonic does that very well.
Yeah.
As someone who's not very
Yeah.
familiar with it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I 100% agree. I think Sonic is a perfect example of what anybody who tries to do a video game adaptation should look at Sonic and use it as the template. Now, not in that all video game adaptations have to be targeted at children, not at all. But I think you need to, one, know your target audience. Sonic is a children's character, it's in children's video games. Now, a lot of us adults enjoy playing them. We grew up on them. We still enjoy playing a Sonic game. We like platforming games, right? Like, people still enjoy them.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But the character itself is made for kids. It's not The Last of Us. right? The Last of Us is not made for children. Okay? And when I look at video adaptations, one thing that I think has frustrated me in the past is people have come in and they've lost sight of what makes the game fun. Why is there a fan base for this game? For example, the World of Warcraft movie, universally pretty much hated.
Yep.
Uh because it didn't capture what World of Warcraft is. Now, like, to your point, that's not necessarily on the creators of the movie. There's certain games that you can't really replicate the excitement of in the movie.
Yep.
For example, I'll use World of Warcraft as an example. Why do people like to play World of Warcraft? Because it's a online multiplayer game with a lot of their friends, and they enjoy grinding for the best weapons and gear and mounts, etc., etc. You cannot capture that in a movie.
Nope. It's
You
not
you
possible.
can't. Not in doing a World of Warcraft story. Now, you could do a movie like Ready Player One, which captures more of the fun and the camaraderie with the friends playing a game and has a lot of callbacks to nostalgia in that. Or you could do a movie like Free Guy, which is trying to kind of show some of the excitement of an online multiplayer game in a movie. You can do that, but you can't do the World of Warcraft store. Like, it's hard to do that as a movie because you can't make a movie grindy and make it enjoyable, you know? And so Sonic translates well, but there's been other movies that I think could translate really well. Assassin's Creed,
Mm-hmm. But they didn't do it very well.
but they lost sight of why do we like Assassin's Creed. Now, they captured parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
I am somebody who will defend the Assassin's Creed movie against the super haters. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. I would barely even say it's maybe even a good movie, but it did capture some things,
Yeah.
the kind of acrobatics and all of that. But what it missed, in my opinion, was some of the like sneaking around.
Yeah.
I also think it needed more combat, right? Like, that's what people enjoyed about the Assassin's Creed games, was the sneaking around mechanics and the combat mechanics.
Yep. The find your angle of approach for this assassination. And yeah,
Absolutely.
which they did not have
And
in the movie. I think.
they could have,
Yeah.
but they didn't. They chose not to. And that's what I would recommend anybody adapting a video game. Focus in on what made the game popular. Why do people like the game? And make sure that's a central theme in your movie. The
Yep.
Mortal Kombat movie
Just gonna bring that up.
did this pretty well. Now, just that alone isn't going to make your movie Oscar worthy,
No.
but that shouldn't be your point with most of these video game adaptations. And really, adaptations in general, I think sometimes this gets lost. We're like, oh, okay, I get the storyline. Now let me just put it in a movie. Well, hold on. Why do people love this? Why do people love Sonic? Why do people love Wheel of Time? Let's focus in on those aspects. Now, you also have to put other stuff around it, because people like Sonic because it's a difficult platforming game and they like speed running it, right? You can't really put that in a movie, but there's certain moments and certain things about Sonic that are cool. And we can have some moments that look like the game and focus in on the fun. Sonic is a fun character. He's supposed to be for kids. He makes little jokes, very cocky, immature. He's a kid, right? Something to relate to for all the 10-year-olds out there. That is in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this movie, I think, does a good job of adding some other stuff in there that we can laugh at as adults, right? We can laugh at the wedding scene.
I also love the in the wedding scene. His ringtone is the classic Sonic music.
Classic
Green
Sonic
Hills.
music. Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
those small nods do a lot.
They do. And that's where you win over a fan base, right? Because let's be honest, with how many bad video game adaptations, I'm looking at you, Doom,
The
uh,
Halo TV show.
we've had over the year. The Halo TV show right now. Oof. Yeah, if you wonder why we haven't been covering that on the podcast, it's
It's rough.
because sometimes, as my mother has told me, when you have nothing nice to say, maybe don't say anything at all. That's
Now,
kind of the philosophy we're taking with that one.
on that
Um,
note, real quick,
yeah,
while we're
go
on the
ahead.
topic, I watched the
Adaptations in
first
general.
two
Yeah.
episodes of the Halo show. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's another great example of, hey, you have these small nods that you do really well. Throughout the
Mm.
first episode, first fight scene was great. I think the CGI looks great for the Covenant and the Spartan armor and all the weapons.
Yeah.
They replicate the vehicles very well. Like there's a scene that like you see the Spartans HUD of their like their suit,
Oh
and
yeah.
it has
Mm-hmm.
the same reticle as we would see in the games. That
Yes.
kind of looked a little off in the show, but I was like, that's a nice little
It
nod.
was a good nod. Yeah.
And then the rest of the show is just not good. So even you can focus on the get those nods that make like we loved about Sonic, but without having the right feel for the like keeping the um, approach that Sonic did of like here's what people loved about Sonic. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
aspects of the game they liked of the like staying true to the story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you still need that to make a good adaptation. It's not just
Yes.
hey you're a fan, we're gonna do our own thing, but here's some things you guys
Here,
like.
look, I put
Here's
the
some little
theme
like
song. You must like my movie now.
exactly. Um,
Yeah, that's a good point. And I
just
think it's something that for some reason is difficult to tailor down, and also I think if you're out there and you want to make a video game adaptation, pick your video game carefully
yes,
because you need to pick a game that has something at its core that people love that you can show in a movie.
yep,
World of Warcraft is my top example of that game should have never been adapted the way they were going to try to.
no,
It doesn't work. Last of Us, I'm very hopeful for the adaptation of Last of Us because I think The Last of Us, what is the part that we love about that video game, or I shouldn't say we because I actually haven't played it, but what is the reason fans love that video game? They love it for the story. They love it for the relationships, for the emotions of it. Movies can capture story, relationships, and emotions very well. And so I think you have a chance in movies or TV show. It's going to be a TV show. So I think it's definitely character development, those kinds of things. Totally a good option for a TV show. Um, you know, a game like Diablo probably shouldn't be adapted, right? If my rule of thumb, I think moving forward is if the video game doesn't have a main character,
probably not the best option.
probably not the best option, right?
Now,
I've seen talks of like Call of Duty getting adapted, and I'm like, no. We
yeah,
have war movies, which are always going to be better than Call of Duty. So you could make a thriller based off of one of the Black Ops storylines. That might work, but honestly, I would just do a thriller and not call it Call of Duty. Like, why?
yeah,
There's no reason to. You can just do a military thriller. That'll work. People love those. You don't need to tie it to Call of Duty. God of War, on the other hand, God of War has a main character. That would be a little easier to adapt, and I think could be adapted pretty well. What are your thoughts? I kind of cut you off there.
sorry, what movie you cut out for me a little bit? Um,
Oh, I said God of War there
oh,
was my example of one that would be pretty good, probably, because again, main character, story driven. What do we like? The heartfelt relationship between a father and son,
hmm,
really cool fight scenes. I think that could work as a movie.
I totally agree. Um, I would also push back a bit that uh, not on God of War, on the point before that. um,
Mm.
I can see games where they don't have a main character, um, like say Diablo or even World of Warcraft, how they
Okay.
could work, but you're
Okay.
appealing to a different. You're appealing. So I'm gonna give an example of a game we're both familiar with, Destiny.
Okay.
I think
Yes,
Destiny
absolutely.
could have a good show or movie as long as they
Mm-hmm.
don't focus on the events in game, as long as they go to the lore that is not shown.
Uh,
As you're
that's
not
a
doing
great point.
anything with
Great
your
point.
um the player character. Um,
Absolutely great point.
and I would say that's a similar thing about with the Halo show. Um, I think they struggled with, we're taking this character that is meant to be a stand-in for the player to give you this feeling of you're an
Mm-hmm.
unstoppable war machine, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
you're saving
Mm-hmm.
the universe, taking out all the bad guys. You're just gonna feel awesome.
Yeah.
You can't translate that kind of insert character, faceless space marine, like the
Uh-huh.
stereotype,
Yeah.
well, um, from the game to the show. I think Mandalorian did it
True.
fine because they had nothing else to base it off of. You're getting just the
Yeah.
character of the person. There's no
Mm-hmm.
comparing to the adaptation or to
Mm-hmm.
the original medium. So
Yeah.
when you pick your game, like you were saying, you got to choose a game that you think will fit the story you want to tell well. And if
Yes.
you're gonna try to do something very different than the game, maybe find some aspect of the lore that could work towards what you want instead.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, you can definitely do a game without a player character, but again, you need to focus in on why do people like this game? And is that adaptable to the screen, right? With Halo, I like playing as Master Chief because I shoot everything and kill everything, and it's great.
Exactly.
Not a very compelling movie or TV show, but I know I have this big fan base of Halo, and I can understand why you would want to tap into that. Find some other part of the lore, some other characters. Don't make it about the character I was smashing through everything.
Hmm.
If you want to make a Doom movie, don't make it about Doom Guy.
Yeah,
Make it about something else.
I think
And then you might have a chance at at making it work. And like you said, make sure that what you're adapting can tell the story that you want. Because if you want to tell a different story, don't
like go
feel
for it.
like you have to do it with Halo stamped on top of it. You're welcome to tell a compelling story, but you're going to bring extra criticism on your head for no reason if you start tying yourself to these adaptations, right? If you want to make, I mean, we talked at length about Wheel of Time. By the end, we all just kind of said, this just doesn't feel like Wheel of Time. This feels like some other fantasy that I'm watching. If you wanted to write a fantasy show, you are welcome to write a fantasy show. Just don't call it Wheel of Time unless you're going to do Wheel of Time because you're setting unreasonable expectations for yourself, right? If you're going to do a Destiny 2 show, which there are talks of that
Hmm.
show in the works because of the whole Sony buying Bungie situation for multimedia purposes, don't do the mainline storylines in the
Hmm.
games unless you're going to focus on something else. Focus on events and things that were referenced by the games that we haven't seen yet. Because I've already played through the story of the Halo games. I don't need to see them again. I enjoyed playing through them.
Yeah,
Do something new and interesting with it. Absolutely.
yeah. And I think a good example. I wouldn't say it's a good movie, but a better approach for that. I think it was the Forward Unto Dawn movie they made for Halo, um,
Mm.
where the main characters were cadets in the, or like
Mm-hmm.
lower on the totem pole Marines, and you see Chief doing things in the show. He's just a he's kicking alien butt. He's just being Chief, but you don't have to characterize him other than this war machine that's
Yep.
destroying everything in his path, which is
Absolutely.
how the normal people see Spartans in the universe.
Yes,
So
that's true. Mm-hmm.
there's ways to do it, and I don't. Yeah, I can't see any other reason of why they would do like take a game, do a completely different kind of story than what you have in the game, um, or any other medium other than you want to attract that fan base. And
Exactly.
I
And
understand why they do that, but it also feels just I don't know. It feels kind of like a cop out.
it feels a little cheap.
Yeah.
It to me it feels misleading. It's like, well, if you would have just marketed this as a cool sci-fi show, I would have been interested. I probably would have found it and maybe I would have liked it. But you marketed this as Halo or you
Yep.
marketed this as Wheel of Time. And so I come in with a certain expectation that that's what I'm going to get. And when you don't do that, then you get a bunch of fans angry about changes, which we all agree on this podcast at least, that changes are absolutely necessary when you adapt something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the heart and soul of the show, the themes, those need to stay more consistent, I think, moving forward.
Yeah. I think especially with these I think specifically with game adaptations, one of the
Yes.
big hurdles with that matching the fan expectation of what they
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed about it is that I
Yeah.
think there's a much broader for the story being told. There's a much broader element to what people could enjoy. Um,
True.
like some people have never watched the Sonic show. They only played the games. They could
Yeah.
still enjoy the Sonic movie, I think,
Yes.
because
I would
they
agree.
like those instances. With a
Mm-hmm.
with say Wheel of Time, people have a very certain expectation of this is the story.
That's
That's what I
true.
liked about it. Obviously, there's different parts of the story people could like, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But like with Destiny, for example, my brother read all of the lore. I think up till about a year ago, he knows
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
He would love to see that. Other people
Mm-hmm.
don't care about the lore and only play the game just to grind loot, like World of Warcraft players. Totally fine.
Yep. Totally fine.
But if you're going to be telling a story, you have to know which group you're wanting to target of those
Yes.
expectations, and so it's harder to
Yes.
appeal to all of them, I feel, than say other adaptations.
That is true because different people find different things enjoyable. There's certain games, you know, we look at something like Street Fighter. How many people are playing Street Fighter because of the storyline that's going on?
Exactly, like the Mortal
No.
Kombat movie.
Mortal Kombat movie. So you got to focus in on what do people like about this, and if there's some split fan base where you've got some people that play for this, some people that like this. Like there are people that like the Street Fighter lore, and there are people that like the Mortal Kombat lore, and there's cool lore in there, and that's where I think a movie's a great way to bring out some of these other things that are great about a piece of content that, like you said, as a player maybe you haven't seen before. Because you know what, those hardcore grinders of Destiny, they if they saw the lore, they probably would really enjoy it. They'd love to hear a new story inside of Destiny.
Yeah.
Don't try and put grinding on the screen. It's not going to make anybody happy. We're not going to enjoy watching a character look for loot
Yeah.
all movie long, right? Like you gotta decide and be careful, like we said, about what games you're adapting to make sure you come in with the right expectations of what you're adapting.
Yes, and I think m- more recent video game adaptations have done a pretty good job of this. There's
Absolutely.
definitely some problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like we reviewed Mortal Kombat, we both enjoyed it and loved the aspects they put in, but it's still not the best movie. You can still
No.
judge it based off of that, but
Yes.
it's I like how the Sonic movie has very much stayed true to it. We're just gonna be we know what like we're staying in the lane of
Yes. We're
we're
staying in our lane. We're not trying to win an Oscar with
no
this. We're trying to be a fun movie.
yeah,
And that's okay. That's fine.
and I think that's a trend that we're seeing more of. Now I
Mm-hmm.
think the TV shows are trying to more focus on we're going to get a story and build a fan base, which I think is totally fine. I think that's more of what a TV show needs to do um, to keep a consistent viewership.
That's true.
Um, but yeah, I have hope for future adaptations. or
Yeah.
more hope than I did a few years ago.
Yeah, or more hope than I did even a few months ago when we finished Wheel of Time. I'm
Oh.
like, oh my gosh, come
Uh,
on, people. Because you look at a show like that, and that's a perfect example juxtaposed between Sonic and Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time tried to do things and got all over the place out of its lane, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And adaptations continue to keep doing that. I love it when Sonic says, no, Sonic is a character for children. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be colorful, funny, exciting, little bit of adventure,
a
and
similar
that's what we're
example,
gonna do.
um,
That's what we're gonna do.
Detective Pikachu. I think that was also
Oh,
a good adaptation that
absolutely.
we're just going to be Pokemon. Yeah, we're going to have Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, and that'll make people laugh. Um,
Yeah,
I think it's similar to how Sonic had Idris Elba as Knuckles.
yeah.
Was
Which
there a
he's getting a
point?
TV show apparently, which is kind of sick.
That's just hilarious to me. So like the kids come and they're like, "Oh, that's my favorite character." People come for
Yeah,
nostalgia, and then they also see it's Idris Elba as Knuckles. That's hilarious. Or
that's
Jim
perfect.
Carrey. I grew up watching Detective Ace Ventura. Like
Yes.
you get
Uh
more
huh.
of those. Yeah. So it definitely can be done well, and it's definitely moving in that direction better.
And not every great movie has to win an Oscar, right? There, we can all sit here and go, that was a good movie. I enjoyed that. I had fun. Not every movie needs to put me in an existential crisis where I'm rethinking all of my life's choices. I like it when certain movies do that. Like,
Hmm.
that's cool. I love feeling things in movies, but sometimes I just enjoy a fun movie.
Yeah, it can be entertaining without being deep or very
Yes.
artistic.
It doesn't have to try too hard. Sonic doesn't try too hard. It does what it does, and it does it well, and that's why I loved it.
Totally. Um, Talking about adaptations,
Mm.
I don't know if you saw the trailer, but that was my favorite trailer before Sonic. Um, Across the Spider Verse.
Oh,
I
oh boy.
it apparently just got
Part one.
yeah,
Part one.
it just got delayed to 2023 though. So like within like the past
No.
2 hours.
Oh my gosh, as we're
Apparently,
recording,
yeah.
here, breaking news on the Stack
Da-da-da,
Shack podcast.
da-da-da. Um,
Oh,
but
crud. Well, you know what? If they need more time to make that animation perfect, take all the time you need.
yeah, apparently it was bumped back because they added the Equalizer 3 to their schedule at Sony. So I don't know how that changed Spider Verse, but
Man, we just got to move everything around
yeah.
for Denzel, apparently.
But yeah, I am incredibly hyped for that. Loved
Oh,
Spider Verse might be one of my like it's probably my favorite animated film ever. Up there
yeah,
at least.
animated film ever? Yeah,
It's also
absolutely.
just a banger of a movie, regardless. Like that is just
Oh,
a solid 9 out of 10, easy, if not
beautiful.
more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was our friend that we convinced that doesn't watch movies to come with us and watch Sonic. That was her favorite part of watching the movie, was
Oh
seeing the Spider
no.
Verse trailer.
Yeah, Spider Verse is gonna be sick.
Oh yeah,
Um, as an adaptation, I'm very excited to see
definitely we'll talk about
this
it on the
version of Spider-Man
podcast.
again. Oh, 100% we'll cover it here. Our thoughts. Hopefully, it will live up to expectations. We've got. Speaking of, I'm just throwing this in here at the end real quick. Because I think this might be what we cover next week. What have you seen the trailer for, and what are your thoughts on the Northman?
I love Vikings. I have seen the trailer, yes. I had chills the whole trailer. 'Cause I'm like, this is my story. I love this. I'm ready. um, I'm incredibly hyped. I'm just ready. If
Oh,
you're giving me a son getting revenge for his family as a Viking,
a Viking
oh,
revenge story?
I'm ready.
Hell
Just fully
yes.
on board. You don't have to say anything else. I don't care who's in it. I don't care who's directing. I'm there. Don't care.
Well, and then they just bring in the powerhouse. Like, we didn't need a powerhouse director and acting team, but we got one.
Oh yeah.
I am. Yeah, that's my most hyped movie probably this entire year so far that I've seen. Um, that I can think of. That's probably it. I am just absolutely pumped.
Incredibly
As
hyped.
we're recording this, it comes out in like a couple of days here. So, uh, next time you see us, I think we're going to be covering that movie in our review of it.
Oh yeah.
And with that little nugget, that little tease, loved the trailer. Go watch it if you haven't seen it
Please.
already. We'll go
Soundtrack
ahead and
itself is great.
oh, yeah, it's just it has the right feel, right?
Mm.
So, we'll talk much more about that next week. Right here on the Stack Check podcast. Please join us to discuss it. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this episode, and let us know down below what you think about Sonic, what you think about it as how we should adapt something. Uh, is it a good video game adaptation? How many of you are down in the comments like me with mega
Pop-offs.
rose-colored glasses and nostalgia? Feeling good about seeing Sonic on the screen again. Uh, as always, please like, share, subscribe, send this to your friends. Let them know that we're out here talking about great movies, and we'll see you next week.